Welcome to Innovation 2019. Thank you all very much for coming. My name is Kevin Sorkin and I am the founder and CEO of the Event Organisers Global Government Forum. It's wonderful to see so many faces here, some of them old faces, some of them very new faces. We serve to help civil service leaders work with and learn from one another, providing journalism and events and research to do so. And the word serving is key here. Just as you serve elected leaders, helping them to realise their goals, we serve you. And having brought together the agenda, the space and the people, we hope you will find this event inspiring and valuable, and you can take what you learn from here back to your roles to support you all in doing something different and making a difference. And for our UK colleagues, I hope it can be a welcome alternative to the current day events. I wonder how long we can go without mentioning the B word today, but today is all about finding some answers to the challenges you are all facing in your important roles. We have an incredible lineup of panelists today. I would like to thank them all. This is a unique opportunity to draw on their expertise from all over the globe and across sectors. When it comes to the discussions and Q&A, don't hold back. Ask as many questions as you can and make the most of the short time we have together. I'd like to say thank you very much to our knowledge partners, to EY for being the headline knowledge partner, and all other partners and exhibitors whom we will hear from throughout the day. And I'd like to thank John Manzoni, Chief Executive of the UK Civil Service. This is the first time we've held this event, and we are very grateful to the support of John and the support of his colleagues. So thank you all very much for coming to this year's event, and I look forward to a fascinating and informative set of talks and discussions. Now to open proceedings, please welcome our host, John Manzoni.
Thank you, Kevin. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Kevin. Welcome to you all to London. Nice to see you all here. I'm delighted that we're able to host this first Global Government Innovation Summit. When Kevin first suggested this to me 12 months ago, I was wondering about what might be happening as we were due to host it. Well, here we are, and we're still hosting it, so that's good. But I have to say, the attendees here today, there are 30 speakers, there are 39 countries represented in this room, and there are more than 600 delegates registered. There are probably 300 or 400 in this room. Now, it's lovely to see you all here, and I think it's fantastic for an inaugural event, and it speaks to how important this is for governments around the world. Innovation, of course, is a fundamental challenge for today's public service everywhere. We're all facing the same tensions. How do we continue to deliver user-centered services to citizens in a way that they expect here in the 21st century, accounting for the changes in social norms and behaviours, while harnessing new technologies coming at us thick and fast, all in the context of a fiscal envelope which continuously gets tighter and tighter. It demands, quite frankly, extraordinary efforts from all public administrations around the world, from each of us, from each of you here, and each of our organisations. And it encompasses change and innovation in not just technical dimensions, but in many dimensions. So, for instance, we need to understand how to incorporate behavioural science into our policy-making structures. We need actually to understand how to protect the very basis of our democratic processes, which can be, and some would say already are being attacked in using new and agile tools across the world. We need to adjust the relationship between the public sector and the private sector. We need to evolve that so that it can be flexible and get the best for our citizenry. We need to understand the shape of our future workforce and how to deploy robotics at one end and AI at the other end, and how they will change the way we go to work, because we've all got enormous numbers of people working in the public sector. We need to understand how best to deploy those new technologies into our services, both to make them more efficient, of course, and to make them more effective to the citizens. We need to understand how to marshal our data, which sits underneath that technology. Governments hold huge amounts of data, from geospatial data around places, right down to detailed information about an individual. And we, of course, have to set the ethical standards for not only how we, for how we use that data and how we combine that data, and that is a difficult and complex task. And we also need to evolve how we organize ourselves to deliver public services in the light of an increasingly citizen-centric world. And that is a big challenge and a big task, and one that we're working on very hard here in the UK. There are no doubt many other areas. I've just listed a few areas of innovation and change where we need to continue to push so that we can improve the service delivery to the citizens of whichever country we are from. And that is, of course, the common purpose that brings you all here today. That is why we're all here. For our part in the UK, we're quite proud of what we do and how we do it. Many would say we are already world-class in service delivery. We're high-ranking among the world's administrations in that regard. We're driving changes to what we deliver. Great example would be our big universal credit programs, taken 6 or 7 years, hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds to get done, but it is fundamentally reforming and changing how we deliver our welfare benefits. But we're not only changing what we deliver, we're changing how we deliver it. We're digitizing hundreds and hundreds of services across the UK, but we're also evolving, as I've mentioned, how we structure our civil service, the very structure and processes with which the civil service works, in order that we can better serve the complex demands of the citizens. We're certainly not complacent, and we're definitely conscious of the need to learn from others all the time, and particularly how do we collectively embed transformative change into our system, not just add a website to an old system. These are common challenges for all of us in this room. And that, of course, is the power of today's summit, to share perspectives, to share solutions, to learn from each other, to make new connections, all in service of enhancing the lives of the citizens of our country. So thank you all for coming today. It's great to see you all here. I hope you have a fantastic day. Thank you also to Kevin. He did all the work. He came to see me and said, would you host it? I said yes. And then 12 months later, he said, we've just done it. Could you come and open it? That's fine by me. But thank you to Kevin, and of course to our knowledge partners and our sponsors and key sponsor in particular for supporting this day. I hope you have a fantastic day. The agenda looks fantastic. I now want to hand over to Jay Knibb, who is the Global Vice Chair of Markets for EY. For anybody who wonders what the hell that means, that basically means he's the boss of service delivery for EY globally. Jay, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to everyone. It's really a pleasure to be with you here this morning to discuss collaboration between business and government in building a better working world. As I meet with both business and government, new ideas are emerging to address really 5 megatrend issues that we are facing. First, the rapid change in technology. And enabling that change in technology requires agile responses by government and by business. The second trend is that continued desire for increased transparency, both from business and government to both public and private stakeholders, and the expectation of increased communication to society. The third is the evolution of the skill sets needed by talent. The workforce of tomorrow needs to be reformed and changed. And we have high expectations that our educational systems have to respond. A technologically enabled employee is going to be critical to both government and business going forward. The fourth trend is obviously the business of both politics, of trade, and how trade evolves in this new world. We're seeing this play out each and every day, and it's important for both government and business to recognize that dialogue, in order to help, not hinder global trade, is going to be increasingly more important. Now, each of these trends, whether that is transparency, technology, talent, or trade, is necessitating fundamental transformation, both at the government level and at the business level, understanding how you have to change your business and the way you interact within our citizenry. So today, the importance of today's event, in my view, can't be overestimated. Change to climate, demographics, economies mean that governments around the world face new challenges. Challenges that affect citizens in all countries. Challenges that can only be met by doing things differently through innovation. And these challenges can only be addressed if we talk to one another across borders and across sectors. Working together between government and business to address the changes and the challenges of tomorrow is how we're going to innovate to address these new problems head on. I'm very proud that EY is the lead knowledge partner for this event and is helping to facilitate the exchange of ideas amongst all of the participants. It's only by working together, government and business, that I think we can actually address the needs of our citizenry. At EY, we pride ourselves in the proponents and advocacy of innovation. We've worked through our alliance partners to blend emerging technologies with business innovation to help solve some of the most complex problems. Outside of government, we offer digital solutions to farm suppliers, farmers, and food processors to improve efficiency and create business opportunities across the agricultural value chain. We use predictive analytics and machine learning to work with some of the biggest port operators in the world to reduce congestion and make goods move through ports with speed and efficiency. We're using blockchain with multiple parties, from winemakers to gaming platforms to insurance companies, to provide the assurance and the trust that's necessary to speed business with authenticity and confidence in the systems. And we've worked with financial services institutions, particularly in countries where nationally backed government ID programs provide a combination of both government data and private data, and in some cases to provide short-term loans and financing within 10 minutes to the citizenry by combining that data from those sources. A very powerful way in which to fuel economic access to capital for those who perhaps have nothing more than a mobile smart device. These types of innovations, I think, are ideas that government can help collaborate with business. And throughout the course of this event, we're expecting that those ideas of innovation will be shared by many of the knowledge partners. Certainly, the EY government and public sector practice has spent a great deal of time working with government and business to try to address the evolving needs of the citizenry. In closing, I'd like to thank the Global Government Forum for the work that they do helping senior civil servants around the world in meeting the challenges and building this expertise. And I'd also like to thank the UK Government Digital Services, who have worked very closely with the forum to put this event together. I think the next day will provide some very great insights, hopefully very good collaboration and dialogue around how innovation can help government and business create a better working world for all of its citizens. Thank you. Enjoy the conference.
I am.
Oh, God. Thanks, Jane.
Introduced George Atala, EY's global lead for public sector, to the stage to talk to us about the future citizen. And yeah, good luck and thank you for your support.
Can I use this?
You certainly can.
All right, good morning, everyone. Wonderful to be here. Fabulous time to be in London. I don't know if you were here yesterday, but the weather was unbelievable, which is, I'm told, typical of London, where Februarys are always warm and you can always sunbathe. So I'm coming back next February. My name is George Atala. I am EY's global leader for government and public sector. Before I get started, I'd like to recognize someone who's been very important in getting us to this point, Sean Crawford, who's Vice Chair for Global Industry at EY. So thank you, Sean, for all the help that you've provided. So I'm going to kick off with if you indulge me, with a couple of personal stories. A few weeks ago, I took my daughter to get her car registered. So I live just outside of Washington, D.C., on the Virginia side, and I took her to get her car registered. And we walked into the Department of Motor Vehicles, and we were promptly issued a ticket with a number on it. I don't know if any of you, I'm sure none of you have gone through this process before, but we were issued a ticket with a number on it, and we were pointed to the chairs to go sit down and watch the monitors until our number came up. And we were there and waiting patiently. And my daughter, of course, playing with her phone. And at one point, she looks at me and she says, "Dad, why isn't this as easy as buying shoes online?" And I thought, in her way, that is actually a very profound question. Why does it take hours? And why is my daughter's expectation for life on the internet, why isn't that being fulfilled? And then a few days ago, I was in Barcelona at Mobile World Congress. And if you've ever attended that event, you will see that there's a tremendous amount of technology that is put on display in Barcelona. And that technology every year seems to be leapfrogging the year before. So there's a lot of technological change that's happening. So these two stories in my mind pretty much summarize what's happening. On the one hand, you have user expectations, citizen expectations that have tremendously changed over. It's hard for us to remember that social media has only been around for 20 years. It feels to me that it's been around for 200 years, but it seems now so prevalent everywhere that we forget how fast this change has happened. So on the one hand, you have a user expectation that has tremendously changed. And then you have technology that's also changing very quickly. And government is trying to catch up or keep up with both user expectation or citizen experience and also technological change. And it is not an easy problem. It is not an easy problem. And every single government that we speak with, and I do a lot of travel, just being the nature of what I do, everyone is struggling with that. How do we serve our citizens better, and how do we take advantage of all the technology that's out there? And you will see some of the pressure points: technological change, demographic shifts, globalization, right? So the expectations are changing quite a bit. And when we started thinking about this, we thought, if you were to look at innovation and trying to steal a page from the handbook of innovators and of entrepreneurs, what would an entrepreneur or an innovator do before they launch a new product? What is it that they would do if they were to go to a venture capitalist and say, would you actually invest in my idea? Because I am very sure, I am certain, that this is something that many of us here in this room are thinking about. How do you innovate? Well, every entrepreneur and every venture capitalist will tell you that before we launch a new product, we try to find out if it actually meets the needs of our users, of our customers. And it's pretty much the same question that I'm sure many governments are asking themselves. So this is the question that we ask ourselves. Who are the citizens today, and how have they changed from years before? So if you look at this slide here, we tried to come up with various personas for what each citizen today is and how is that different from the citizens of years before. And you'll see there are 8 different personas, but each one of them is driven by a macro pressure, by a driver that has actually created that persona, whether it's increasing connectivity, whether it's digital abundance or just the prevalence of digital devices, whether it's broadband access, whether it's changing workforce, but each one of those macro drivers, of those pressures, has created a new citizen. So let's look at those a little bit. So this is Megan. She's 30 years old. In many ways, she's a little bit like my daughter. My daughter, by the way, another personal tidbit for you here. She will be in one room and her sister will be in another room, and they will text each other. which I've always found fascinating, that they actually text or Facebook message each other when they're in two adjacent rooms. I've always find that. But this is what people like Megan, who's 30, expects 24/7 government service, being able to access government at any time of night and day, being able to receive her services as seamlessly as possible. So in a way, reflecting my daughter's comment about why isn't it as easy as buying shoes online. How does one serve Megan, who has that particular set of expectations? But Megan is not the only one. Then you have Ben here. And Ben is an empowered citizen. And by the way, a lot of the people now that we hire at EY, the average age at EY for a company that's 230,000 or 240,000 people, the average age is 28 years. So, I'm a dinosaur basically at the company. But 28 years, these are people who want to do good, who want to feel good about themselves, who want to feel empowered, who want to feel that they're contributing something, and they want their voices to be heard. So that's your empowered citizen. And that's another citizen that needs to be served, again, in a different kind of way. Then you have Rebecca, and Rebecca is, could be someone living in London, in fact. Feels that it's very hard to find good, affordable housing. Where will she live? How will she get the services that she requires? Different kind of person here. And if you think that by 2050, 2/3 of the Earth's population will be living in cities, well, Rebecca is not atypical from the kind of person who's expecting to be in an urban environment and get her services to her in an urban environment. Louisa is an adaptive citizen. It's like many of us. She sees that automation is transforming the workforce. She wants to be up to speed on what's happening in the world. So Louisa will be looking for some continuing education. She wants to know that government is looking after her well-being by keeping her prepared for all the changes that are happening in society. So, are governments ready and able to actually serve and support someone like Louisa, who is at a point in her career where she is genuinely concerned about, will she fit in the workplace of the future? And that's a very specific demographic that is absolutely important for all countries. You have Marina, who's a vulnerable citizen, and Marina's wondering, where will I get my support? Where will I get my welfare? Will I be able to pay my bills? How will I educate my kids? Will I even be able to buy food? And this has often been, one of the main concerns of government. It's people like Louisa. Do we have the ability to care for her in her time of need? And this is, again, a very important demographic that every government has to be very attentive to. Bill, who's 65, is wondering about his pension. Will I actually have enough when I go into retirement, or will I have to work into my 70s to be able to support myself? So Bill is asking himself, will I have enough money to survive into my retirement? This is a question. If you look at the world everywhere now, because of aging, in some of the developing countries, you have fewer payers into the pension system. This problem, the number of unfunded liabilities in pension systems, is just mind-boggling. So Bill has good reasons to be concerned. And people like Bill are, again, people that governments should be identifying and addressing. A few weeks ago, I was in Dubai. Dubai has an event around government. It's called the Global Government Forum, a Global Government Summit, actually. And I was asked to sit on a panel to look at government services. And we were talking about how do you deploy technology to offer better services to citizens. And one of the things that I was really very pleased to hear, someone asked, what about the citizen who is actually not connected digitally, who does not have access to those tools? Aren't we, by rushing into digitization, risking to exclude such a citizen. So if you look at the digitally excluded citizen, Keith, who's 58, he's a farmer. He actually wants to go to the post office. He wants to put a stamp on an envelope. He does not want to use email. He does not want to access his services via a digital medium. So how do we keep in mind people like this? The global citizen. So this is Mark. He's 49. He's an IT professional. He goes from one country to another. He's actually quite concerned because he'd like to have some routine in how he works. He needs to know what the rules are. Will he have to pay taxes in all of those countries? How will he calculate his taxes? Are the rules clear for people like him who travel from one country to another? And this is actually a very valid question. I mean, I just because of what I do, I probably visit at least 20 countries every year. And this is something that I think about. And there are a lot of people now who move a lot because of their jobs, and they move across countries. So they are genuinely asking themselves, are the rules clear and transparent? Will I be able to conform with these rules? Do I understand them well enough? All of those personas are various categories of citizens that now, because of those macro drivers, pressures that I described, they exist, they look at their governments, they expect to be served and supported by their governments. And for governments, it is important to recognize who they are because there will be a need for some personalization of services. And this is what technology allows us to do, but this is also what citizens are expecting from their governments. So I will end with this slide. And really, I hope that this slide serves more as perhaps a prompter for the discussions. And I'm really excited about the discussions that will take place today. But these are some of the questions that I hope we will be addressing today. How can we find innovative ways to develop and deliver policy? How can we develop better approaches to managing public procurement? How can we introduce intelligent automation technologies? How can we harness data and analytics to drive efficiencies? How can we innovate in the workplace to provide greater opportunities for employees? How can we develop new approaches to designing and delivering public services? These are questions that are on the minds of every government that I meet with. And I hope, one day is never enough to cover all of those important topics, but I hope that we will have the opportunity today to look into some of them and to share information and knowledge that would help all of us to address these questions better. So I will stop here. I thank you for your attendance. I look forward to the rest of the day, and I hope you will enjoy it as well. Thank you.